Welcome to HortTube. My name is Jim Putnam. I am up in East Flat Rock, North Carolina at Mr. Maple or MrMaple.com. Maybe those of you know it. I have, let me see, you guys shipped me some plants one time and I did an unboxing thing, and then you've seen a couple videos where Steph and I came up here, and in possibly a couple other videos since then. This is Tim Nichols, one of the
It's always brothers. A pleasure to have you here, too.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
You're just such a wealth of horticulture knowledge. I know your viewers know it, but we appreciate you coming and visiting, and appreciate you filming here at the nursery as well.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. I think most people are going to know you for maples, and we have a whole greenhouse of fall color behind us, that you guys can hopefully see back here in the background. But you have a lot of other plants as well.
We do ginkgos, we do azaleas, we do some rhodea, like your unboxing video, and then we do conifers as well. Right. And this is sort of a fun assortment of conifers that we do here at Mr. Maple. Right,
and we've added a lot of conifers to our landscape, a lot of dwarf conifers, and then conifers that'll actually get bigger over time. But a lot of them are so slow growing that I feel like I can use them in an ornamental landscape and not worry so much that it's going to get so big in the future, because I got a lot of time with it.
Yeah. That's one of the things too. There's conifers and trees that have long lifespans. They're gonna grow as they age. They never stop growing. Right. But you can enjoy them, and they're gonna be nice, slow growing. You choose if you select the slow growing plants for your smaller spots, you're always gonna have a tree that you can easily maintain. And that's what you're looking for when you're selecting a tree for a certain spot. It's something that you can maintain in that spot, that'll fit in that space the best.
Right, 20, 30 years, I'm not thinking about 50 years from, not thinking about 50 years from now. Okay, so everything you got, this is mail order out of your place. You do open a few select.
Yeah, we do a few open houses. We typically do one on Labor Day, one on Memorial Day. We post all that information right on our website. We just opened back up for the first time this year, so we'll be doing that just during, selected open houses. Right. But we do mail order directly to people's doors, and we're a very specialized nursery. Right. We try to focus on the unusual things you don't find in many other places.
Right, and for sure, and we're about to find out some of that. So I'm going to have you go through a few of the conifers on the table, and then we'll switch places with Matt and have Matt cover a couple as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Camicypherae are just a neat group of plants, which just means
cypress,
cypress-like.
Yeah,
right.
They really are.
Yeah, most of them are soft to the touch, not all, but most.
And that's what people end up doing is they see the Camicypherae out there and they want to go up there and grab it.
Yeah, right.
And you want to feel the texture, because that's just almost part of gardening. Right. Whenever you get into it, you love the textures out in the landscape.
But these are also you're going to have upright forms and round forms, and some with almost blade-like, and then golds and blues and.
Yeah, definitely. We've got, the thing I like about a lot of the Camicypherae is they give you a nice evergreen interest out in the landscape and garden. And for a conifer, they are an evergreen conifer. Yeah. And they are one of those conifers that can give you a lot of unique colors out in the landscape year-round. Right. And that's one of the things that just really makes the Camicypherae really nice. And there's some slow-growing dwarf forms and narrow selections that can really fit well in people's landscapes.
Yeah. Well, what are the three that we've pulled out here on the table?
Well, the first one is Snow White. This is a Camicypherae lawsoniana.
Yes, right.
And the best thing about that is that this is grafted on disease-resistant rootstock. That means it can do real well down in the south.
Gotcha.
If it's not grafted for the Camicypherae lawsoniana, you're going to have a lot of issues.
Right.
But by grafting it to the disease-resistant rootstock, this is a very beautiful, more conically shaped, and it's got that silver blue foliage. It was found as a sport. This is Snow White, and it was found as a sport in the UK on the cultivar Amwoodii.
Okay.
And it just has that silver blue foliage, that narrow shape, and what it does, it just creates a nice small vertical interest. Right. And we're talking 4 to 5 feet in width by 2.5 feet. 4 to 5 feet in height by 2 to 2.5 foot in width in 10 years.
And again, you want to touch it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and again, those are grafted on the disease-resistant rootstock. Right. Many people may have grown some of the rooted cuttings. There's still some people out there that are producing some of the lawsonianas by in-rooted cuttings, but those do well in the Pacific Northwest. You get down in the southeast, you really need them grafted on that disease-resistant rootstock.
Nice. What's up next?
So next up is Camicypherae baby blue ice. One of my favorite conifers. That is just a conically shaped blue, silver blue kind of color. And that silver that's on the new growth and then the blue that's on the other side of the needles give this tree a little extra flair.
Right, yeah.
And the thing, I fell in love with this plant. I was visiting one of my friends who had a nursery, and he had them they're just so beautifully shaped with this perfect little conical.
Yeah.
And they do that all by themselves.
Yeah,
I mean,
this whole group does.
And it starts out, a little bit more ununiform, and then just gets more and more just perfectly conical as it ages.
Right. Yeah, I need that one.
Yeah, baby blue ice, like the name is kind of appeling too. I mean,
right,
baby blue and then ice, because you see that sort of silver.
Yeah, and here we are almost November, and typically with a lot of our conifers, this is actually putting on growth.
Yeah.
In the coolest part of the year. They'll go through a kind of a summer dormancy, but in the fall is super, super showy.
Yeah, and it's got that nice conical habit to it. I love it because it can, like Snow White, it can fit in more narrow spaces and give you blue color.
Right.
I always joke and say that unlike what the internet says, there's no blue Japanese maples, but there are blue conifers, and they make great companion plants to the Japanese maples for sure.
Right. So what's our dwarf one here, the gold one?
So the next one is a dwarf golden Hinoki cypress, and it's called Keimine Hiba.
Yeah.
It's a Japanese name. It's one of those ones that's very difficult to pronounce, but this is a really tight, dense, golden dwarf Hinoki cypress.
Yeah.
And the Hinoki cypress have been used in Japanese gardening for thousands of years. And there's so many Japanese maples that's maybe hundreds of years.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But there's so many Japanese maples that pair so well with these dwarf Hinoki cypresses, and they fit in small spaces. They're great container plants.
Perfect.
And this is one that'll get 2-3 feet in height by 2-3 feet in width in 10 years.
Perfect for a small ornamental garden.
It's one of the smallest of the golden Hinoki cypresses that we offer at Mr. Maple.
Right.
And I love the yellow.
Yeah.
If anyone pays attention to our YouTube channel, all I talk about are the yellows. I'm like, let's talk about yellow Japanese maples.
Yeah, well, anybody that watches our channel knows that, our yard you can see from space, because it's, I tote every gold thing home that I find.
Well, the yellows just do so much in landscape. They contrast well with the greens, the blues. They bring out every shade of green.
And they show up in dark spaces.
Yeah.
So if you put them, I think people love purple, dark foliage things, and then you take them home and you put them in a corner somewhere, and then you back up 30 yards, and they kind of disappear.
Yeah.
Yeah, where these do the opposite.
And that's the thing I like about the Cypress too. They're very easy to grow for a lot of people.
Yeah.
They can handle a little more shade than other people, and they really perform well out in the landscape.
Yeah. So let's move on to we got some spruces pulled out.
Yeah, so the front one here, we've got Skylands.
Yeah.
And that is a classic. That's a very nice pyramidal shape. It's a nice, tall, upright, and if you give it morning sun and afternoon shade, you can really peak up the golden color on those needles.
Right. Okay.
In some parts of the deep south, you don't want to give it full sun until plants are established.
Yeah, and that's the question, is how heat tolerant.
Yeah.
Are they?
Well, I've seen them growing in full sun down in Canton, Georgia.
Okay. All right. Okay. So
Tom Cox's.
Yeah, Tom Cox's.
And doing fantastic. But typically, what you want to do is get a plant that gets established before, because you may get some leaf burn on the plant in the early, when it's a young plant.
Gotcha.
But Skylands was a chance seedling at the Skylands estate, which is a botanical garden in New Jersey.
Okay.
And we went and visited and saw the original one. And it's just got this amazing shape that you see everywhere.
Yeah.
And really gives some really good yellow color out there. If you're looking for a plant that's going to get established and make a larger yellow out in the landscape, Skylands is a fantastic plant to do that with.
Nice. What's up next?
So next we've got Picea orientalis nigra compacta. That is a darker green Oriental Spruce. And this is one that's going to be a little more tighter and compact. I mean, it's got that darker green. That's where the nigra comes from. Compact because of that compact shape. And that's going to be an Oriental Spruce that'll end up getting about 5 feet tall, 4 foot wide. It's a great screening plant, a great landscape use plant. It's one of those plants that gives you that darker green out in the landscape, and it always gives you that crisp darker green.
Yeah.
The darker green's not used enough because they contrast and makes your brighter green show up really well in the landscape. Makes your yellow show up well in the landscape.
It's just a perfect little plant.
Yeah.
It's such a perfect little plant.
It really is. It really is.
Yeah. And what's the blue cultivar?
The next is a Colorado blue spruce called Hoopsia.
Gotcha.
It was a selection by a Hoops Nursery in Washington. And that plant just makes a tight, dense Colorado blue spruce that has a very nice pyramidal shape.
Yeah.
And again, the blues are so amazing to use out in the landscape because they contrast so well with everything.
Yeah, where would you put this in the deeper south? I mean, we've got our dwarf in, what is it getting? Maybe a couple hours of midday sun. The rest of the time it's kind of in the shade.
Yeah, and that's what you need to do with the Picea pungens.
Yeah.
You're going to need to give them some protection from the hot afternoon sun,
Yeah.
protect them from that, but they need some sunlight.
Mm-hmm.
But if you put them in the right locations, you can really peak that blue color and get a color you can't get out of many other plants. And that's the reason I love the Colorado blue spruce. I love these blue Cypress because they can give you a really nice blue color year round.
Yeah, and we've got a gold one, a green one, and a blue one.
Yeah.
Right? It's perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Tim.
You're welcome.
Yep, awesome. So this is Matt Nichols, Tim's brother, and you've seen him in several of our videos, and maybe on their YouTube channel as well. You guys frequent posters.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, we love just talking about plants. We're huge plant geeks.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's why I'm here.
We'll go anywhere to talk about plants, and we'll do anything to talk about plants. We're kind of crazy like that.
Yeah.
So.
And I think people would think that this is some sort of sponsored video or something that I'm doing, but we're just friends and just hanging out. And I'm happy if people get business out of us arriving at places and us getting pleasure about learning about plants. And I'm sure we'll cart a couple things home.
Yeah.
Great.
Oh man,
everybody
thanks
wins
so much. We just really appreciate anytime we get to talk about plants, and that's really what it's all about for us, is getting a chance to kind of share our love for some of these weird and unusual things with other people. And
nice.
Yeah, it's just cool of you to even give us a chance to talk about them.
Awesome. Well, thank you for inviting us. So we're going to cover a few additional things. We did the Cypress, we did the spruces, Cryptomeria, which are one of my absolute favorites.
We've got some cool ones here. I kind of stole some of the yellow thunder from Tim.
Yeah, you did.
He's always talking about yellow thunder. It's like a drinking game on our channel. We joked that you take a shot whenever Tim says yellow and you're done, because he talks about yellow plants all day. That's it. Next up we have Cryptomeria japonica Golden Promise. Now, this is a cool little round globe, typically like a 4x4, even in 10 years. Really nice one. It was introduced to the UK, and it just gives you that spark of kind of yellow in the garden. It kind of provides that dynamic contrast. We love this one, because you can put a lot of color in a conifer garden, but also because it contrasts really nicely with some of the dark reds of Japanese maples.
Yeah, we just have tons of. I'm a Cryptomeria collector for sure. These. One thing I probably need to say here is all of these will make great container plants, at least for some period of time, and you can just step them up over the years. I mean, it's one of the things we do with conifers is we'll buy a small one like this or even smaller, and then we can step it through about 3 or 4 different containers over 2 or 3 or 4 years, and then into the ground.
People come up to me sometimes and they say, how long can this tree stay in a pot? And I'll show them a 20-year-old when I have in the booth, and I'm like, well, this Tamukiyama's like 20 years old. It's been in a container forever. So it's all relative to how much you want to do to keep it in the pot.
Yeah.
But these make great container plants.
And Cryptomeria are great for, when we're talking on this channel a lot about plants in the South, these are all very cold hardy things.
Oh yeah.
So those of you in colder areas that I don't talk about enough, all of these are great for you. But the Cryptomeria are probably amongst our best southern options, junipers and Cryptomeria for our pushing the boundary south.
For sure, sure. I mean, again, I've seen these in the Cox Arboretum looking fantastic. It's a plant that goes in the deep south and it really does well. The color is really unrivaled. That's really the thing. You can get a little bit of bronzing in late summer or late fall, but it really has that nice golden yellow is what it really stands out for.
So we have one pine.
Yeah, okay, so we've got Pinus nigra, and this is Oregon green. Now this is one of my favorites. It's really popular for bonsai because of that kind of color it gets to it. Makes a really fun shape. It's kind of like a stoic shape there in the garden. It's also very irregular. I'm a huge fan of it for its textures it brings. Early spring too, it can just look crazy. Some of that new growth candling off can get quite colorful.
Is it grafted as well?
Yeah, these are grafted as well.
Okay, gotcha. Beautiful.
Great tree, and another great dwarf. I mean, again, relative to age, but if you can keep this one in a container, it's always popular for bonsai for that shape too.
Right. Perfect. Couple of thuja out front. Or
this one's Anik. This one's really cool. Anik is a very interesting little Thuja occidentalis. This one kind of is funky in that it's like really a lot of color changes. This one will be like lime green to almost like a bright yellow in the summer. It's really fun in the winter months. It kind of gets like a bronzing over the whole thing. And I mean, it makes a perfect little chia pet.
It's
So, I mean, that's what everybody likes it for, is the chia pet aspect of it.
Right, yeah. And there's one called Fire Chief that's
Yeah,
a similar one that's like a looser form of this. This is like a super tight version of it.
We've done that one too. Great.
It goes those same color changes.
Very similar. And this one just makes a small little
smaller
ball in the landscape there, and it makes a perfect topper for a plant or two. I mean, you can put that one in a container. It's going to look nice and compact right there on top of it.
Yeah, it almost looks fake. I mean,
it does, right?
Yeah, it's to the point where that's like...
It's funny. It's one of those plants that online is popular, but in person, like when people get here or our employees, they buy all of them because they see that one. They're like, that's so funny looking. Like it kind of looks like something you might interact with, I guess. So people tend to grab that one up in person really quickly.
And then what's your other one here?
Yeah, so this is another Thuja occidentalis. This one is amber glow. Now this one's like a 4 to 5 footer and really intense yellows. This one will bronze out in the winter as well, but really popular for adding that texture, but also, you know, a lot of color there in the landscape.
Right, and the Occidentalis are native kind of north of where we are, and that's ranged through the North Carolina mountains and north. So for us in Raleigh, you know, another one that I find, if you keep the ground mulch, maybe plant the ground cover around it or something like that, you can, you know, maybe think about watering those.
Yeah, right. They do like the water.
If it's a little dry, you know, that's one. But they're perfectly fine. It's just one of those plants you actually have to think about occasionally. You know, if you're, I'm talking again 7B, 8. You know, 8, where that thing's hardy. So.
For sure. Well, I got one here for the heat tolerant people. Right. You know, the Cedrus Theodora Wells Golden.
Yeah.
Cedrus Theodoras, you know, we list those up to zone 11. I mean, like all the zones are really based off cold hardness. Right. But this one can handle some heat for sure. Now, the more sun you're giving this one, the more yellow it's going to get. So I definitely stole Tim's yellows. This one gets a really nice yellow. In heavy shade, it tends to be a little bit more like lime green to yellow. Right, But if you're getting some sunlight on it, really intense yellows. Typically, you know, 6 to 8 foot, even in that 10-year period. So a nice mid-sized shape. But you know, we love the Cedruses for that. You know, the deep south. They work great for the south.
And this is one of our this is an actual cedar. So many things in the world are called cedars, but Cedrus Theodora is an actual cedar. I think there's only like 3 or maybe 4 species of cedar, but like we call everything cedar because you know, because the wood, it makes the wood more expensive.
Yeah, I think so. Right.
It makes the lumber more.
It's a classic Himalayan cedar. So yeah.
Right. Well, beautiful. This is a great collection. I'm sure Steph and I are gonna pick a couple of these.
We're a huge fan of conifers. I can tell you are too. You're always drawn to our conifer houses here. So.
Yes, we are.
Yeah. There's a lot of fun things going on with conifers. You can create, you know, conifer only gardens or mix some maples in sometimes, make some good texture as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Matt.
Yes, sir.
And Tim behind the camera over there. We love coming here. So thanks for watching, guys.